Okay, guys, welcome. This is Mrs. Pin, and this is episode number 2 of my brand spanking new pinball podcast. It's a shout out to all the ladies out there who are sitting at home next to their men who love pinball and are just wondering what the hell is going on. So today we got a couple of really exciting topics. First of all, my husband has just finished telling me about the TWIPY Awards. And let me just put it out there and project that as episode 2 is being recorded currently, I am aiming for the TWIPY Award for the best new pinball podcast of 2018. Aim big. You know, go big or go home. That's what I'm kind of aiming for. My husband has also been telling me about a dude named Canada, kind of like Canada, but not quite. And he is, my husband's laughing at me. He is somebody to both revere and be in a little bit of stupor over, because apparently he was given the TWIPY Award for the best podcast, pinball podcast, last year, and that is pretty incredible. But my husband told me I have to be careful because sometimes Canada is known for putting out more than one podcast in a short period of time. And seeing as this is my second podcast in one evening, he's telling me that I got to be careful. You know, that's the bottom line. Just be careful. Too much of a good thing is still a little bit too much. Okay, so anyways, tonight's, first of all, my first podcast technically did get cut off because I thought I wasn't recording. Again, I'm new to this, so, it's new. I don't know what else to say about it. So this is part 2 of the first podcast. So we're sitting here and we're laying in bed. It's a Friday night. We're watching the live stream of the Texas Pinball Festival, it's being live streamed by, I'm sure, a bunch of people, but Jack Danger is the guy who is currently live streaming that we're watching. And we have not really been given any new pinball information by Jack. My boy JD over there is waiting for some kind of big announcement about Pirates of the Caribbean from Stern, and honestly, it's just nothing's happening. So if something happens, I'll interrupt the podcast and I'll let you know. But we're going to start off, we're going to talk about the upcoming Pin Fest in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And then we're going to close off with some tips of the trade for all of you pinball lovers out there, but especially for the wives who are just sitting by their man's side, trying to get to the next day with a pinball fanatic in the house. That is something that is not always the easiest thing to do. So first of all, PinFest, we live in Pennsylvania, and PinFest is about an hour and a half from where we live up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it is in a few weeks, and we're pretty psyched to go to the competition. My husband is seriously psyched. And so we got to talk about a few things. So the point of us going to this Pin Fest, is obviously for the pinball fun, which is never ending. But also we're doing some serious research while we're there because we are looking into buying a new pinball machine. And my husband's turning 40, and I told him that we could have a party or we could go on vacation. But when he got really into pinball last year and he brought home 2 new games, I was like, listen, if you're turning 40, why don't you just go out, pick out any pinball machine you want? I thought I was pretty awesome for doing that. But the one caveat with that is that I told him that I really wanted to play the game before he brought it home because he's super into Magic. And the one game that he was looking at is the new Houdini game. And it's obviously so new that when he started thinking about it, we hadn't even played it yet. So I feel like, if you're going to spend that kind of dough on a new machine, that you really should play it first. So let's start there. We're going to start with going to the PinFest to see this new Houdini game. And we're going to give it a layman analysis here. First of all, the things we're going to be looking for. overall playing fun is something that is super important, and long-term playability. So, like, is it going to be something that is going to keep our interest as we own it in the house? Or is it going to be something that, we're going to play it like once or twice and we're going to be like, all right, that was cool, that was fun, but we don't really need to own it. Clearly, if we're going to spend the money to own it in our own house, we want it to be something that we can play for a while and not get sick of. We currently have a Ripley's, believe it or not. And I still feel like after playing it for the 6 months that we've had it, I still feel like it is a new game every single time that I play it. And that's something that's pretty important. You can't just go in and feel like you've gotten it down and mastered it. You have to kind of feel like it's something you can comprehend and understand, but you also need to think about whether or not it's going to keep your attention once you know all of the rules and you actually feel like you can play the rules and hit the shots. So that's going to be the overall scheme of the Houdini. We're going to see what kind of playability it has. I'm going to be looking for cool moving features, which I see, in the pictures that it has lots of. Right now, my biggest concern with this machine is that it's got that creepy face in the middle of the playing field. And my husband thinks it's super cool, but I think it's kind of freaking creepy. So, we've got 2 little kids in the house, and we've got to make sure that it's PG enough that they're not going to have nightmares, because let's be real, when they come into the bedroom in the middle of the night, they're waking up mommy and not daddy. So we're going to be looking for that. We're going to be looking for some cool features and the lighting. We currently have the pin stadium lights in our Ripley's machine, which are really cool. But I wish that, maybe it's just because it's an older machine. I wish that it, kind of came with some of the light features that the new pin stadium lights provide it with. So Houdini, as it's a new machine, I would want to look at the lighting and see what kind of cool features it has, and if the playfield is lit up well enough on its own to not need those pin stadium lights or see what it looks like. So we're going to be looking at the lighting. The biggest, most fun thing about any pinball machine for me personally are the ramps. And so Houdini, I want to see what kind of ramps they've got. I want to see how unique they are. If it's just something that's like, a want ramp that you just, you've got an exterior ramp on the one side and an exterior ramp on the other side. Did they do anything cool? Did they drop into cool little spaces? Some of the Lord of the Rings ramps from that new machine, or new-ish, I guess. Hobbit, sorry, not Lord of the Rings. Some of those ramps are so cool. They pop back up, they drop the ball down, they have this little lever that pops it back up onto the ramp, even though it falls back down. It goes into this crazy dragon head, and it's super cool. So I'm going to be looking at that on Houdini as well. So we'll see what it looks like when we get there. We're going to check out the exterior art and the overall appeal of it, and hopefully read up on some of the game rules and get a chance to play that while we're over at the Pinfest in Allentown. So while we're there at Pinfest in Allentown, and before we talk about the next couple of things we're going to be looking for, what we really need to discuss is the fact that there is this elusive after-hours secret pinball ballroom at the Ramada Inn down the road, and somehow my husband has found out about this secret elusive after hours pinball ballroom. And I guess that basically it's these guys who are so into pinball that playing pinball at the Pin Festival for 12 straight hours isn't quite enough. So they actually bring machines to the hotel, set them up in the hotel ballroom so that they can pull an all-nighter and play pinball. It's like college cramming pinball style. And I just, first of all, I'm in total awe. I think that it's the coolest thing ever. It's a super cool hobby to have, pinball in general, but to be that dedicated to not only travel to a festival to play pinball for 2 days straight, but also to bring your own machines and get them into the freaking ballroom so that you can play after hours pinball with all your geek dork friends. It's like fucking bomb. It's the best thing ever. So I want to know how we can get into this after hours secret pinball ballroom. Do we need to bring our own game? Because none of our pinball machines are going down my stairs easily, and they won't fit in my CRV anyways. So, that's a problem. But I mean, it's clearly all about who you know and having friends in high places. So, these after hours pinball guys, hook a sister up. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, next, we're going to be looking at PinFest for the Alien game. This is a new game. My husband has played it once, and I have not played it yet. And I have to say that I just want to play the thing because it's like the Real Housewives of Pinball over there at Alien. There's apparently a ton of drama, people who put down money for the game, and, they're not producing enough machines, or the machines were promised, but people are losing their money, and it's just a giant shit show. And I freaking love it. I think that maybe if this podcast pans out, we'll have to do like a Real Housewives of Pinball. And we're definitely going to need somebody who's like involved in this alien drama because it is so amazing. So we want to play Alien. We want to check it out, see if it's worth all the drama. I mean, why are people going bonkers for this game that's not coming out? Is it that great? So we're going to be looking for that. And the next thing I'm going to be looking for, which I've never played before either, is the Total Nuclear Annihilation. So for all of you layman wives out there like me who just really are just kind of learning and feeling their way in the dark here with all this pinball shit. So this guy loved pinball. He decided that he was going to just make his own pinball machine from scratch. He was going to, do all the coding for it, do all the lighting, actually build the game, make the rules, build the ramps, the music, everything. And he made this game called Total Nuclear Annihilation from beginning to end, all by himself. Like he got like a serious jonesing to try it out himself, and this guy had some gusto, and he made this game that people are freaking out over. Because initially, this was something that he just made for the fun of it, that he brought around to different shows and shared with people. I mean, the pinball world in general is pretty incredible in terms of the giving nature of people who own these pinball machines. You go to these festivals or these conventions, and people just bring their machines because they want to share them. Like, where else in the world do you see people go into so much trouble? It's not like a pinball machine's going to fit in my pocketbook, It's a lot of trouble to bring these pinball machines around, and you're bringing them in trailers, and you have to set them up, and then these things are expensive too. So just the fear factor of like, is it going to break? Is somebody going to damage it? Not to mention the germiness of like having 4 billion people touch your freaking pinball machine. Anyway, so he was bringing this guy was bringing it around to have everybody just share it and play it. And people were freaking out, obviously, because he's just a normal guy. He's not a pinball engineer, but he made this incredible game. He had this, made a pet project, basically. So he's essentially a total nerd god in the eyes of all of his pinball followers. And he should have mad props for that, because this guy just, like, out of left field, like, just made a freaking pinball machine. Like, hey, honey, let's just go make a pinball machine in the garage. Like, I don't talk about a wife who needs a pat on the back and some diamonds. Holy shit. So this guy made this machine, and it got such press that it was actually picked up by a pinball machine company to be made, and produced, so that other people could not only play it, but that they could buy it as well. So Spooky, which is P.S. the coolest name for a pinball company ever, picked up Total Nuclear Annihilation, which I'm never going to be able to say. And they're going to have one at this PinFest in Allentown. So I can't wait to check it out. Just looking at the videos online. And again, what do I know? I'm just a layman pinball wife. But the game itself looks impressive if you consider the fact that this is just a normal guy who did all the coding, the lighting, the music, and the game itself, built the physical game. It's super, super impressive. But if you compare it to, a new game made by one of the big companies, it's kind of like a want in terms of, the game rules are not super complex.